Live from Circuit of the Americas or somewhere in that area, Tim Herta from his hotel room. It's certainly not right at the racetrack. That's a cool white fridge you have in the background there, Tim.
Adam, I don't know. I don't want to be like too negative about this hotel room, but oh boy.
Are you saying it's not the most glamorous place you've ever stayed?
Well, I booked it myself, but I got it recommended to me.
Oh, okay.
And anyways, the chair that I'm sitting in, I got a little lean. Like it's like a half lean.
Right.
So I'm kind of like this.
Okay.
That old Uncle Tim let me tell you some stories about racing back in the day, Adam.
Now, we had a few issues with Tim's audio. It's not going to be perfect today, but oh well, so we don't need him in the comments. Your audio is sounding much better, though, Tim, and I think we had one major fix beforehand, is that we turned your microphone around, which is, I think a good place to start. And if there are some hisses and crackles or whatever, we apologize in advance. But Tim, we got to get to the news, which is George Russell and Kimi Antonelli both confirmed for next year. Obviously, we knew about Kimi. We knew George was coming, but we kept asking when. And obviously, when we had Nelson Valkenburg on last episode, who was amazing again, we kept asking, when's it going to happen? USGP makes a lot of sense, and here we go. So what finally moved the needle?
I think it's the conversation that you and I had on our post Singapore Grand Prix podcast, Adam.
It's that they needed to get it together, and Toto called and said, "You know what, George? That I just listened to Tim and Adam, and it needs to happen."
That Adam Wild guy knows his stuff. Okay, so we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to get this press release out before the start of the U.S. Grand Prix.
I'm glad they saw
all jokes aside. All jokes aside, though, Adam. I mean, it's definitely it's good for George. I mean, you and I talked about when would be the perfect time for them to do this, and both of us were like heading into the U.S. Grand Prix, and lo and behold, here we are, and we get that news. I can confirm with everyone from a source at Mercedes that it is a multi-year deal for George, and then for Kimi, it's sort of a tack on to his current deal. So his current deal was roughly about a 1+1. This is the +1. So we'll see what happens to Kimi next season, because he'll still need to be re-upped at some point if Toto the Mercedes wants to hold on to him. I think for George, it was interesting in the press release, Adam. It didn't say the dates. Like, it didn't give us firm date on when does this expire for George. I found that quite interesting, and that's why I had to call up Mercedes and we had to have some conversations so I could get.
And I'm sure they let you in on all the secrets.
Well, I mean, the things that we can get into it for sure. The stuff that we spoke about, but I just found that interesting. Like, why put in there just for 2026? And that leads me to believe that he's probably got, and the team does as well, a bunch of out clauses for 2027.
And that would be in case of Max Verstappen?
Could be, or maybe if George wants to go somewhere else. Like, what's to say that, maybe Mercedes gets the power unit correct, but they don't get the chassis regulation correct.
Right.
It's because that can happen, because I think we're going to be seeing that in 2026. I think we're going to see some teams that are going to be fast, not necessarily because of power units, more likely because of chassis build, and vice versa. The other part of it will be that teams will be quick because of power unit build and maybe not so much chassis build. And I think for Mercedes, it's interesting because if they don't have something that is long-term, let's call it competitive. Like, let's say they've really gone the wrong way in terms of chassis or maybe even engine. So for George, that would give him an out. And for 2026, towards the end, we have a whole slate of drivers that are going to be coming off teams' books. So there is going to be a lot of moving chairs in 2026. So if George is still performing at the level that he's performing at, that's going to give him options. And I think, that's kind of what you want. I mean, again, it's slim to none that, like, we don't know what's going to happen with Mercedes, but I mean, the last time we went through a big engine regulation change, Adam, we saw what Mercedes did. So it's kind of like, can they do it again? But I know they've lost people to Red Bull Racing and to other F1 teams as well who worked at HPP, but still, I still don't see Mercedes getting this regulation wrong for next year.
Right. And I think it's, I mean, the rumors are out there, but I think it's an exciting time to be George Russell because, you know, you potentially have the best car in the grid and a teammate that's only entering their second season. And unless that teammate's name is Oscar Piastri, we're not expecting them to be challenging for a championship in their second and even maybe third season. Kimi will be good, but George has the potential to jump in here and steal a championship. Tim, the one thing I want to ask, though, is these negotiations rumors are that they were contentious. And what makes this awkward is that Toto Wolff, who is team principal, part team owner, is also George Russell's like agent / advisor. So kind of difficult to play both roles in this situation. And I'm curious, do you know anything about their relationship? Has it shifted at all?
It doesn't appear so. But I would say if we backtrack to the Canadian Grand Prix back in June, I was speaking with a few people at the team and I was kind of saying like, hey guys, like what's holding up this deal with George? I mean, he's having an incredible season. Like, why is this taking, so long? And that's when I was informed that the big deal that had to do with George's contract was negotiating workload, marketing hours, promotion time, where is George going to be doing these promotions and how many of them is he going to do within a year? And that was a lot of back and forth between himself and the team. And I think for George, saw himself as maybe his status symbol within F1. He may have felt that it may be higher than maybe what it is at this moment, given that he hasn't won a driver's title and he should still be doing a lot of the workload at the team. I would say if he wins, one or two titles, then I think you can start negotiating stronger for that workload and how much you want to be doing, how much traveling you want to be doing, and things of that nature. So that was all the way back at the Canadian Grand Prix, and they've been going back and forth ever since. And then Max Verstappen entered the conversation like we have discussed ad nauseum on the show about Max going to Mercedes. And I think that threw a huge wrench into George's contract plans because not only does he have to try and get a deal that's going to be something that's going to be good for him, good for the team, long-term, some stability that he would like. Now you add in Max Verstappen because that is someone that Toto Wolff has always coveted. And I don't know if George saw that one coming. And so I would be interested to see now what are the finer details that concern, possible Max Verstappen to the team if things don't go well at Red Bull Racing.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see, man. Like this is a crazy time. And listen, there are 4 seats available for next year. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a whole lot of change, but one team that I'm sort of looking at, Tim, is Alpine. That second spot, I don't think Franco Colapinto has really locked that down. Are there any more conversations about what I think everybody wants, which is potentially a Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly driver pairing again?
Well, at the moment, like Yuki is still basically going through the process of seeing if, the Red Bull Racing crew want to keep him on the team long term. Do they want to bring him back and put him down at Racing Bulls? Because I highly doubt he'll be back at the big team. That's definitely going to be Isaac Hajar's seat. In the main battle there is going to be between Lawson and Tsunoda for one of the Racing Bulls seat, because I think Lindblad's going to be taking the other one. So
right.
I think for Alpine, having Franco at the moment, they're still evaluating what they've got there. I don't necessarily think they've made their decision just yet. He has improved. Now, whether or not he's improved enough to remain in the sport, I mean, that remains to be seen, Adam, because like he's had some pretty shockingly bad races, but he's had some good ones. He's had some good ones too. So it's, I mean, it is sort of a mixed bag when it comes to Colapinto. We'll see. I mean, obviously he has Argentinian backing. That money helps. If you're Alpine, that money really helps. So I think for Franco, we're still on this sort of wait and see sort of, trajectory at the moment.
Well, this is, it's starting to be like, we didn't get much of a silly season in August, right? Like we got a little bit of George and Max, but we really didn't get a whole lot of driver movement. I'm thinking back to like things like, when we had Daniel Ricciardo being cut a couple of years ago and from McLaren and all that. It's an interesting time, Tim, because I look at the lineup now, and usually you kind of have an idea of who's going where at this point, and we still don't fully know everything.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think also, I guess for Alpine, throw in the fact that they haven't made a decision on Paul Aaron either. I should actually let everyone know that hasn't been finalized on whether or not they would want him in that seat that Franco's in or not. But yeah, Adam, you're right. I think we're probably going to get most of that next year. Like, I think a lot of the drivers were just trying to find ways of locking themselves into longer term deals, last year, so they could play that game of who has the best car and how can I get into that seat. And that's going to be such a huge thing for next year. We are going to have a massive driver market next year. At least 8 or 9 drivers will be on the move. We don't know, obviously, where. We don't even know if some of the drivers will be back on the grid. We just have no idea at this moment. But if you recall, like 2014, so when the new regulation came in for the turbo V6 hybrid engine power units, we basically had a Mercedes that was just dominating. We had a Ferrari that was struggling. And we had a Red Bull racing machine, again, that had a competitive car chassis, didn't have a great engine. And what did we see? We saw Fernando Alonso pick up and leave Ferrari, and then we saw Sebastian Vettel pick up and leave Red Bull Racing. Those were 2 huge driver movements that happened towards the end of 2014, and again in a massive regulation change. So we will see something like that next year. It's just hard to say who it's going to be. I mean, could it be like we were talking earlier, Oscar Piastri? I mean, could it be Charles Leclerc? Could Charles Leclerc stick around at Ferrari? Maybe he's already been going around kicking the tires already at other teams to see what other teams are up to, right? Just to let them know, like, hey, I'm around. Things don't go well at Ferrari. Maybe we have a deeper conversation later on in 2026, because these are very highly hyper competitive athletes, and not only are they going to be competitive within the car, but in the paddock as well, and jockeying for position and fighting for the better seats. So, I mean, next season, Adam, I think is going to be off the charts when it comes to the musical chairs of where our driver's going.
Now, we've got some interesting news on a potential test to run in just a little bit. But first, let's get to our race around, or at least our lap around the Circuit of the Americas, what to look out for, what the drivers are going to be looking out for with Tim in the sim. Circuit of the Americas.
Austin, are you a big Longhorns fan?
I am not a big Longhorns fan.
You don't like Longhorns, no, Adam?
I respect the Longhorns. I've never picked a college team. I never picked a college team. I'm going to a Duquesne University Div 3 football game here soon.
What's the team name?
Duquesne.
Duquesne?
Yeah, Duquesne is the name.
Sounds like McCain's.
No, Duquesne is a good basketball program.
Like...
It's just not a good necessarily football program. So maybe I'll do that one. I don't know. It's in Pennsylvania. It's where my mom's from. So anyway, long story short, we're going to check out the track here. Now, Tim will actually be at the track this weekend for it, which is pretty exciting. So we're going to see this all in person. But Tim, this is one of the great American racing tracks. It really is. There's some great tracks in the United States, like awesome racing culture, as we all know. But, this one is an interesting one because it's a nice little break from the street circuits that we've had the last couple of races. A nice little palate cleanser, and then followed immediately by Mexico, which is amazing too. Let's walk through the track here and kind of talk about what the drivers are going to be looking out for this weekend.
So we'll start off with, let's say we're on a qualifying push lap. So usually coming out of this last corner, you want to make sure you try and get the car as straight as possible because you want to get up to speed as fast as possible. And there's a DRS line literally right here. So making sure that you're getting into the DRS right away is really important. As we come up this hill, this is a big braking event, like really big. So essentially what you're going to want to do, and I've been using this black box up on the right hand side here as a bit of a reference to start my braking. In real life, I mean, these guys are going to have to find something, but the fact is that when you're coming up this hill, since it's so steep, we can't see the apex of the corner.
Right.
So you don't know really where it is. So measuring how much brake force you're applying and how you're bleeding off of the brake pedal so you're not killing all your speed, because you can do that right away because you're also going uphill, right? So making sure that bleed off, and as you're bleeding off, you're trying to look for this red and white curbing, but you're as you're going up here so fast, you're not looking, look, right? It's just out of the corner of your eye. Something will begin to appear like it does right now.
And then you go.
And then you'll start to bring the drivers will start to bring the car over. What's interesting about here is that you can take quite a bit of this apex curb, even though you see all this track on the right-hand side. And normally you would think, ooh, all this space, we can drive the car in here really fast. But the problem is that when a lot of the drivers try to do something like that, they end up like way out here.
Right.
And the problem with being this far out on the track is you're going to run over this curbing and the green sort of asphalt that's kind of here. You get a lot of wheel spin.
Yeah.
And so how does that affect your lap? So if you're on here, you're going to obviously get a ton of wheel spin. If you're getting a ton of wheel spin, you're not utilizing this downhill section in that momentum. So you're losing you're losing hundredths of a second, which eventually add up.
Yes.
Right. So as the driver comes down here, you want to make sure you're not getting that wheel spin so you can get up to like 6th, 7th gear. You can take a little bit of this curbing as well as you're coming through here. And we're approaching this at about 7th gear. Again, you can't see the apex of this S section. Mm-hmm. And this is a really high speed part of the racetrack, like really high speed. So you're going to be flat out through here. You want to make sure as soon as you spot that red and white curbing, you're coming over. You're all the way up into 7th gear, like just flying through here. It's extremely exciting. But one of the things is that with this particular turn here, even though it's flat out, how you tackle it affects the next corner.
Okay.
Which then, if you don't get the car in a certain spot, it'll affect the next corner, then the next corner. Because this is just such a combination of left, right, left. It's really fast. So you're coming through here in 7th gear, you're going to want to take some of this curbing. You need to get up here a little bit. And you want to make sure you're trying to straight line this as much as possible at the beginning. So one steering input, you're coming through here flat out. And sometimes the car will start to wash away. And what do I mean by wash away? It's like you putting steering lock into the car and the front end starts to push. You put a little bit more in, it's still not committing. So a good thing to do, and what I've noticed, is there's a quick downshift that happens. And you'll come off the gas, downshift into 6th, and then that brings the car back over because the engine's not driving you forward right at that point. right? You're coming off the gas, you're going to get a little bit of brake, it's going to settle a bit. You're not going to get a huge weight transfer event happening. You're downshifting to kill a little bit of the speed, which will help bring the front tires back down on the ground, allow you to get set up. And here, I think a lot of the drivers will use like a reference for a turn in because it's so fast. So it's a quick off the gas, downshift into fifth. I was using that black box that we just passed on the right hand side here. Yeah, this thing right here up on the right hand side. I was using that as a bit of a reference to turn in. But as I'm turning in, I'm flat out, and then I'm going to start to lift.
And it kind of snakes through.
And
you can see how your turn exits are going to really, you get that first one wrong, and you're basically spending the next two correcting it.
Like I was saying with that few corners previous, where it's like if you're not pinpoint accurate with where the car needs to be, then you just literally compromise yourself for the next corner, the next corner, the next corner. And you lose so much time, and the lap is dead, right? You're pretty much finished.
When we talk about race conditions, obviously it's Texas. Not a lot of rain at this particular track in its history, but when we look at heat, how much of a factor does that play in the cars? I mean, obviously, coming off Singapore, it's hard to make that a story, but this is still not an easy ride.
I don't know what the temperature is going to be like for this weekend in Texas. I haven't checked the weather app yet to see what kind of heat we're going to be dealing with. One of the things that I've always found with this track is that the sun in Texas is quite aggressive. So when sometimes you get to Austin, I mean, the weather is quite nice, but the sun is actually doing more damage than what you think it is because it's a little cooler, but the sun temperature is actually really hot.
So less humidity, more just straight heat. Okay.
Straight heat. So that affects the tarmac, though.
Right.
Which eventually will affect the tires as well, right? So they're not going to get a ton of time. It's a sprint event, so FP1 is going to be really important. I mean, making sure that you're getting the tire pressures exactly right for where you want them is also going to be a very, very, very important thing. It's something that's not really talked about, but getting that dialed in so the degradation of the tire in the race is not high is going to be crucial.
What's the setup of the car in terms of downforce? Like, what are teams looking for? Because there is some twisty bits, but obviously it's a racing man's racetrack. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, medium. I would say like a medium sort of downforce setup. You don't have a lot of really long, winding corners. You've got a lot of really short, quick corners. You're coming up to here. This is probably one of the slowest parts of the racetrack where drivers are going to downshift into probably third or second gear, but this is one of the slower and heavy braking events compared to what's happening over at turn one. So you're going to be coming in here. You want to take a little bit of this apex curbing and then, again, starting to smoothly press on the gas when you're coming out of this corner is crucial because you're going to want to use part of this runoff curbing. And the thing is that if the steering wheel is in a compromised position, if you haven't apex properly, then you're going to get a ton of wheel spin.
Right.
And you're going to ruin the lap again, right? So there's
it's a trickier course than you'd think, right? So let's talk a little bit about the atmosphere there, because Tim, you're obviously going to be there. You've been there the last few years. Everybody talks about Mexico City, but Austin gets 500,000 people throughout the weekend. What kind of an atmosphere is it?
It's pretty wild. I mean, a lot of really great fans at this track. Haas Hill is definitely really cool. When the drivers approach Haas Hill at the start of the race, it's just packed with fans. It looks like half of Texas is like sitting up in there. Like it's really great. It's one of my favorite races to go to. I would say the fans really embrace it. Locally, they really embrace it. The atmosphere is just always really wild. Sunday's always a good party too. So,
how much do you think Cadillac's going to do there this year? Obviously, in preparation for their entry into the grid next year.
I think they're going to be doing some stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah. They'll be doing some things. Can't really talk about, but yeah.
Okay, so they're doing some things.
I'll be there. I'm sure they will be there doing something.
Okay.
Right? There will be things there that everyone's going to be doing stuff. There's probably going to be some announcements happening that we can't
talk too much about. Usually there always is, though.
Yeah.
When it comes to the, American races or Canadian races, there's always some announcements coming into the weekend as well.
Maybe a George Russell extension.
We talked about this on the show, man. Like, this would be the perfect time to do it if you're going to do it. I mean, when else would be a great time? Maybe Vegas. Going into Vegas would be a good time to do it. But again, right, that's 3 races before the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't know. No? I don't know, man. It's going to be very, very interesting. I'm excited actually to see Perez and Bottas there. I would imagine they're going to be there, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then, of course, probably in Mexico the next time as well. So,
do you want me to finish this part?
Finish this off. Yeah, give it to us.
This is kind of an important part of the track as well. Making sure you're getting a good exit out of that corner that we just came through. But as you go under this American Express Bridge thing here, you want to make sure that you're turning in a little later so you hit this apex. And hitting this apex is super important. Another part of it is drivers will be around 6th gear. To get into 7th gear to nail this second part of the apex, because you want to hit it in and around here, you use like 7th gear midway through there so you can get a little bit of front end rotation into the car. But as you come up to this turn up here, it's really fast, it's fun. It's 2 downshifts into 5th, not a lot of brake. Take some of this. Last year when Lando Norris got pole position here, this was a crucial part because as he was coming out, he hauled ass through that corner and really committed. But when he went to get back onto the power and he got up onto this curbing, he had a slight snap that he just saved. It was a remarkable save. But that's, making that save, it was just enough, and that allowed him to go on and get pole position. Last corner, also really important. Downshift into 3rd. It's a tricky corner, kind of throws you off. You would think it's something you want to go in late. You actually want to go in early because it is a bit of an uphill sort of corner, and you can kind of see it from the game as well. But you want to make sure that when you're apexing and you're starting to accelerate, you're straightening the steering wheel.
Right.
And even though that looks really weird, because you're like, well, we're gonna run right off the track. There's just no way. It doesn't make any sense. So your brain is telling you one thing, but since it's uphill and since you can't really see too much on what's on the other side, you kind of have to commit to it anyways and see what happens.
Right.
So you're going to be accelerating all the way up this hill while you're straightening out the steering wheel. And that usually ends with the drivers here or track limits because they've gone in early, and since you still have steering lock in, they're like, well, I got to get back on the gas.
Right.
So I've either got to just really start to easily get the steering wheel straight as I'm applying the power, and make sure that, and hopefully I don't go, 4 wheels off track.
Okay. All right.
Those are little details, right?
Circuit of the Americas. It's a trickier course than it looks like, but it's going to be lots of fun. And Tim Herta will be on the ground, boots on the ground, in Texas. Tim, a trickier track than people expect, and I want to switch because we're at Circuit of the Americas to Colton Herta, who obviously left IndyCar and is making a stab at being a Formula One race car driver. Now he's got to go to Formula 2 first. Am I correct on that?
Well, he basically still needs more points on his super license.
Okay,
and I think one of the big things for Colton was, could he get those super license points by just racking up free practice 1 sessions, TPC programs, so testing of previous car programs that would also add license points as well. But I think at the same time, he needed to learn more about the tire and how it degrades, how to use it. And I think that's where F2 sort of entered the conversation. Now, sources have told me that Colton's going to be testing an F2 car. I believe it's going to be maybe with high tech. Again, this hasn't been fully confirmed just yet, but should be towards the end of the month. And I think for Colton, that's going to give him a better idea as to how much he's going to have to learn, because that is what's going to be so important for him. And it's also going to be important for F2 teams as well, because I don't necessarily think, Adam, all these F2 teams would just be lining up to take Colton. And that's no offense to Colton or his talent or anything of that nature. What it means is that some of these teams that are at the top end of the F2 grid may not want to spend all their time trying to get we can call him a rookie driver because he will be in F2, up to speed, right? Spending all that time when they should be being competitive up closer towards the sharper end of the grid, making themselves look good because they don't know where the next driver is going to come from. Because a lot of those teams, Adam, who run at the sharper end of the grid in F2, they rely on driver sponsorship.
Yeah. Yep.
And so if the team is not competitive, drivers who have the big backing won't go to them. And that will drive your stock value of your team down. And you'll be spending all of that time and energy trying to go after the very talented drivers who have the budget. So I think for Colton, whenever this test is going to occur towards the end of this month, again, hasn't been confirmed yet. These are some sources that I've heard within the paddock. They're pretty good ones, but again, hasn't been 100% confirmed. I'll see if I can get that done this weekend. Again, it's going to give the F2 teams an understanding of how much has this guy got to learn, and are we willing to play that game and get him up to speed? Because it's a big challenge he's got himself faced with in F2, Adam. Like IndyCar drivers are incredible, right? A lot of these F2 drivers are incredible as well.
Oh my God, no question. Tim, going into this weekend, obviously it's a time where, we had the drama of the McLaren drivers a couple races ago. You have Max Verstappen, who's resurgent. Charles Leclerc is still in the fight as well. Who do you expect to do well? Like, what car is going to be suited for this track? Because my understanding was you don't think McLaren loves this track for themselves.
Yeah, so Andrea Stella was saying something really interesting on the Saturday post-qualifying in Singapore, and a big thing that he was getting at was just how difficult he feels COTA is going to be for them. But Adam, standing outside in that blazing sun today and getting absolutely frickin' roasted, I don't know. I mean, McLaren does pretty good in hot weather, like they do. They have great tire degradation wear. They're really good with it in hot weather. The thing that he was driving at the most was the corners. They're not long enough in terms of the high speed content that's here. They need longer sweeping corners to really have a big advantage, like we saw at the Netherlands, the Dutch Grand Prix. They feel that this is going to be Red Bull territory. Mercedes could play a role here as well. And I'll be interested to see what happens with Ferrari. I mean, Ferrari hasn't been that bad here in the last few years. So those would be the teams that I'd be watching out for. Obviously, the big story with all of this is the drivers' championship battle between Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and where does that go from here? What happens? That's what's going to be the biggest story coming into this one. Is it gloves off? Does Oscar say, screw it, and throw him into the wall? Like, what happens?
That's what we're all dying to know.
Mm-hmm.
We're dying to know that. I mean, I feel like it might be time.
I feel like it might be time for him to just put him into the wall.
Right. well. Listen, you don't want to just do that. I don't think any of these guys are malicious, but you do need to get your elbows out a little bit.
Yes, 100%. I'm going to be fascinated to see how these two. Well, one, I'm going to see how they handle the media tomorrow, or on Thursday, I should say. We're recording this on a Wednesday evening, because that's going to tell me a lot. It's if they're a little prickly and if they don't fully answer questions with the old heart on the sleeve type deal, then that's going to eat away at them.
Right.
And they'll take that with them into the car, no question. And it's going to be the one who lets it affect them the least that's going to have success. Now, Oscar's usually pretty good with that. He's very good at compartmentalizing. He's very good at taking a lot of the outside noise and just doing away with it and just focusing on the task at hand. And he's going to need to try and put a little more daylight between himself and Lando Norris, because Lando's coming for him, man. He's been chipping away at this championship the last few races. He's put a pretty good dent into Oscar's lead, and so too is Max Verstappen. And I think, Adam, at the end of this weekend, we're going to have a clearer picture of just how contentious this championship battle is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm excited, and here's the thing for it. Like, you remember the through goes Hamilton call from a couple years ago, where there was two guys battling, and then Hamilton was able to pass them both. I'm very concerned about a through goes Max Verstappen here if these two fight too hard, because it just feels like him being in it. Winning it seems like just a far-fetched, but him being in it seems like an inevitability, and when he's there. That maybe Zach Brown uses that to his advantage when he's talking to these guys. Like, listen, he's not out of it yet. You guys might want to fight each other, but remember, he's still there. And the last thing you wanted to do, like, I know it would suck losing it to Lando and Oscar. Or it would suck losing it to you if you're Lando, whatever. But it would suck even worse losing this to Max.
Big time. Big time. Imagine that. How many points that guy's come back from? Over 90 to Piastri? That's insane. It is. And I think when Zach Brown sits down, talks to these guys, it is something like that, Adam. It is having that conversation like, hey, look, we've got the constructors. I got my bag. Everyone else got their bonuses. Like, we're good to go. It's up to you two now to sort this out. Just don't cause any damage and cost us money. But if you screw around, you have a 4-time F1 champion who is, snapping at your heels. So if you screw around too much, he's going to come through and he's going to eat into your leads, both of them. Because you have to remember, Adam, he's not only coming for Piastri, but he's closer to Lando than he is to Oscar, and second place is on the books for Max Verstappen.
Oh my God, Tim.
Could happen.
Oh my God. All right. Well, Tim, what's your schedule for tomorrow? Because I want to know, buddy. You just flew in today. I know it was a long flight down.
Very long.
Okay, you're going to probably take a breather here. What are you going to do tomorrow? What's the schedule for the weekend? And obviously, we are going to get a post-quali podcast from you like we do every weekend.
Yep. Post-quali podcast is going to be a tiny bit shorter. I'm going to try something different with it. But again, today, actually, Adam, I mean, I was up at 3:30 in the morning to get here. Mm-hmm. It's now...
we don't love that.
It's now 3:43 p.m. So 4:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm very tired, so can't take a nap just yet because there's a couple of events. There's a Williams event that I got invited to that I have to go to. And then tomorrow we have a breakfast, or I have a breakfast with the fine people at Cadillac F1 team. So Pat Simmons, and basically Graham Loudon, all of the technical team as well at Cadillac F1 team. So I have a sit-down breakfast with them at 8:30 a.m. Or is it 9 a.m.? I got to check my calendar. On Thursday morning, and then head to the track. I'm so
curious to hear what you find out.
Yeah, it's going to be... It'll be great. And then we've got driver interviews for a big part of the day. I can't tell everyone what I'm doing in the afternoon because it'll spoil. Just keep an eye out on my social media Friday because I think the content will come out then. It's going to be awesome. It's really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. But that's all I can say about it. And then have some stuff, obligations for TSN to take care of in the evening. And then it's an Aston Martin dinner. I'm having dinner with a bunch of folks from Aston Martin. I believe Andy Cowell and a couple other guys. So, yeah, it should be good. Looking forward to it.
And that's busy before the racing even starts. That's great.
Yeah, and going to try and get a workout in early in the morning. There's, got to try and stick to the routine, Adam. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. It's hard to do, though, isn't it?
It is very hard to do. But I find when I'm traveling, I have to, or else I come back 600 pounds. So
It's those Texas portion sizes, man. They're crazy.
Oh, dude, like I can't even. Like one year we went to a team dinner and it was like they served us nothing but barbecue. And let me tell you, my insides were screaming at me for days. Days.
But was it great?
It was it was great, but I wish there could have been a little roughage with it.
Smart. Fair enough. Fair enough. So we're going to try to eat something that came from a garden at some point.
Oh, buddy, I do everything I can to make sure I get those leafy greens. You know how it goes, Adam. I think people have heard enough. They don't want to hear anymore.
I got it. Yeah, we do got it. Hey, listen, Tim, have fun while you're down there. We can't wait to catch up with you at the end of the weekend, man. This is great.
Thanks, buddy.